Hi, I'm Tom Stephenson, and welcome to Construction Project Management Tips. I'm a professor of construction management, and I'm hoping you'll join our community as we work together to make improvements in the construction industry. If you haven't watched my videos before, I have a large series of playlists, hundreds of videos in all aspects of construction, construction management, different software uses, and on and on and on. Today we're going to be really looking at one area of lean construction, and so that's the area of waste, which encompasses 8 areas of waste, and this is our second video in this area. So we'll talk about what the 8 areas are, as I did in the previous video, very quickly, and we're going to focus today in on overproduction. And it's one area where we have a lot of waste in construction. Well, there's a lot of waste in the beginning, but you know what? I'm always excited about understanding there's a lot of waste in construction because I see it as an opportunity for us to make improvements. And if you're trying to better yourself or better your company, it's a great way of making improvements in this area. In fact, the whole lean construction philosophy, methodology, tools, techniques, can help you get there. And so we'll be talking about that too, intertwined with this. All right, let's take a look. So, 8 areas of waste. These are, as I've said in a number of my other videos, defects, overproduction, waiting, non-utilized talent, transportation of goods, inventory, motion, and extra process steps. And if you're new and this is not something you've heard about lean construction before, it's just a philosophy and methodology of trying to add value while eliminating waste. And there's a bunch of other principles that go together. It really is a very encompassing system or series of moves that have to be done very well to actually make significant improvements in construction. But as I mentioned earlier, we have so many areas of waste and we often don't deliver the value we intend to deliver, and so there's lots of opportunities for us to make these improvements. So we call these the 8 areas of waste. It kind of came out of the Toyota production system and lean manufacturing, and it's really been taking a hold over the last, I'm going to say, 8 to 10 years, but really I've been seeing it ramp up with the larger contractors. At least I'm in the Greater Toronto area in Canada, with the larger construction contractors in the last 4 or 5 years. So let's take a look, and we're going to be looking at overproduction. Easy way to remember the 8 areas of waste is that they spell the word downtime. This is me when I was like 19. I mentioned this in the previous video, and I look at these pictures doing these photos doing front veranda on my house. At the time I was like 19, and I can see lots of waste, and I can describe lots of issues that I've learned over time to try to reduce and avoid. I think it's very difficult. Like, the mantra is to eliminate waste, and I think that's the overarching goal. But I think it's one of those lifelong endeavors. You're never going to truly eliminate it, but if you're reducing it in a steady way, that's going to put you at a very strong competitive advantage over others for your job in the future. The way the industry is changing, this will well position you, and it will also well position your company. So yes, lots of areas of waste. The final product came out well, and it's still there. I don't live there anymore, but it's still holding up very well some 40 years later, or a little bit more than 40 years later. So that just is, I have my hands-on experience. I have my project management experience. I started out as carpentry, brick and stone masonry, did 2 trades, managed the business for a number of years, and sort of graduated into the business side of things, doing a degree in business and an MBA, and doing a lot of work with people a lot smarter than I am, and learning a lot of things along the way. And so hopefully this will help you on that path as well. So yeah, spells the word downtime. That's the easy way to remember it. And we're today looking at overproduction. And so what exactly would we define overproduction as? Because again, with those 8 areas of waste, they're not mutually exclusive. Like, you have this and you have that. Usually you have overlapping, or one causes another one or accentuates another one, or 3 or 4 things are happening. on the project at once, or all of them are happening at once. So it's not like they're individual only, but I think if we look at them individually, we can also think about how they cross each other. Overproduction is probably one of the leading ones where we have a lot of waste. We mentioned defects, and I'll list the other videos below in the directions. I only have the previous one on defects, but eventually I'll fill it up that we have all 8 of them there. And you can check the playlist. It'll be under PM tips. This is video number 63, so 62 is the previous one. So if we want to look at it, overproduction refers to the creation of more products, components, or services than are needed. So you're producing more, you're ordering more, you're getting it delivered before you need it. These are all parts of overproduction, producing them earlier than required by the next step in the construction process. And this ties to a whole bunch of coordination things we have to think about in construction. And it ties to a concept known as just in time, but I'll elaborate on that for the construction industry a little bit as we go a little bit further deeper into this. So producing more than needed, ordering more than needed. Okay, so if you ordered, in this case, there's a lot of patio stone, basically paving brick, that have been ordered for this particular project. And if you've ordered way in advance and you have a lot of it sitting here and ends up sitting here for several months, then it's ahead of when you needed it. So it can be a waste in a number of ways. One, you're paying the supplier. If you've delivered all of it and you really don't need all of it for several months, you're paying that supplier sooner. So there's a capital cost involved with that. If you ordered too much because you just got this bulk order, well, that's going to have some issues with it too. And we'll unpack that a little bit more as we go. And getting it delivered earlier than we need it, well, if it means that we're going to have to move it multiple times, or you know what, if it's all sitting there and we have lots of theft and different things that go on, it's kind of attractive there for somebody with a forklift and a truck to load it up and disappear with it. That's the other thing that could happen. If you have way more than you need and it's going to sit there for a longer time, you're exposing yourself to additional risk. So there's the time of moving it, there's the time of potential for it to be stolen, and it's really in your way. That's a disruption in your labor costs because now it's moving around back and forth, that sort of thing. Just giving you a little sense of overproduction. You can expand this, like just look around your construction project and you'll see it. So what are the negative impacts? Well, increased costs, as I said. Material costs, ordering or producing more than needed leads to increased expenditure. Storage, handling, as we said, and additional labor costs of moving it. It could become damaged. Every time you move something or it's around something on a construction site, this is another lean aspect, is trying to optimize for the project. Unfortunately, we have a number of trades and individuals that are optimizing for themselves, and they bang into something, and damage it, right? So it's exposing yourself to those in an increased methodology. If it's in your way, well, and you got to work around it. This one's kind of tying to you've got it produced ahead of time and it's kind of sitting there, whether you produced it on site, prefabricated it on site, or had it delivered ahead of time. This is where we tie into inventory because they kind of cross over a lot. Basically, that's going to decrease your productivity. I always put it to you like if you had to paint a room and it's empty, I like doing that. If you have to paint a room and it's filled with furniture, I don't like doing that. Like, it's harder. It's not that you don't ever have to do it, but it's definitely a lot more difficult to do. And it slows you down. So it definitely decreases productivity. Well, this one's never really talked about, but it should be, environmental impact. If you're ordering more things than the project needs, all right, so that means that your procurement method, that you've estimated what you need and you've delivered it, and you've delivered in excess of what you need, well, there's all the energy that was required to produce that particular item. And so that's not great for the environment when you consider how much we do of that in construction. There's different studies there that are done on construction projects, and it often is between 10 and 30% the amount of extra material that we use or we have to repurpose in different ways on a construction project, and the waste that's involved with that. So definitely can have that impact on it. Just think about the amount of energy that goes into producing Portland cement. And basically that's not exactly helping us from a climate change point of view. And then if we order more than we need of concrete, and then we're just having it dumped off, or we're paying to dispose of the extra that we have, there's costs in that. So you can really sort of look at how that is. So we can look at the environmental impact, but that one on concrete actually has big ones when it comes to increased costs and basically having to dispose of it later. And potential for rework. So if we have more of something way ahead of when we need it, and I've had this sort of back and forth with people I train with, mechanical contractors, because I do a lot of training with Mechanical Contractors Association of Toronto. And yeah, if you overproduce things, okay, and then there's a change in the actual project, sure. So the change, if it's well documented, you can, and you've already produced it, and that was part of what you were supposed to do by the contract, you can probably get that extra cost back, probably. But it's always a pushback and adversarial, and there's time wasted in that, and there's cost wasted in that, and you've got unhappy clients and consultants as a result of that. So if you're producing stuff closer to when you need it, less likely that something is going to change, that's going to change the design of what you produce. That means you have to redo it, which ties to rework in the previous session that I talked about. So definitely those are examples of where we have those types of issues. And think of all the concrete. Now, there's a tension that goes on as well. So I don't want to mislead you and think, okay, well, this professor is going to say everything's got to be, perfect, and that's not the real world, and that doesn't work. I'm fully aware of that, having worked in construction for decades. But I'm also aware that we sometimes get a little bit lazy when we estimate what we need for something, and we approximate, and we say, okay, basically here we need 3 cubic, or let's make it a little bit better, 10 cubic meters of concrete, when the reality is we only need 9 cubic meters of concrete. That's a big waste, right? That's a very big waste. It's 10%, but it's also the actual waste that goes into getting rid of that extra cubic meter of concrete, and how that is done becomes a problem. Or on the other side, you excavated more than you needed to, and then you've just ordered extra concrete to make up that difference in fill. So that's a waste, because now you got more concrete than you needed. So then if we want to do a little bit of what we call root cause analysis, it's okay, fine, we ordered extra concrete. Well, could we have done that in a more economical way, perhaps with gravel, perhaps with not having excavated too deep in the first place? What was the reason for that? And learning from that, and that's continuous improvement. Okay, so that's looking at something. We did it, not much you can do about it now, but what steps can we put into place that we don't do that again? That we narrow the actual buffer of materials that we actually need. And in lean construction we talk about buffers a lot, and so buffers could be basically an inventory buffer. Basically you've got extra of something. Capacity buffer, again, you've got maybe an extra pump truck if it's a really important pour. There's some waste in that for sure, and there's some that's extra machinery. So you have to look at the tension between the two, and you want to have enough of something, but at the same time you don't want to have too much extra. And if it's because of the way that you've been doing your orders, your estimates, and they haven't been done that accurately, how do we make improvements there so a little more accurate, and then we can have a little bit of extra there without being too much, and then we work to reduce it as we go along. But I'm going to say right now, there's probably plenty of room for tightening up on these areas. All right, plenty of room. I don't think most companies, from what I see, are there, especially when I walk around and I see all this stuff all over the place. And they can't even keep the site reasonably clean. This in our particular city, so around the world, I know I have viewers from every country pretty much. we have this tree protection zone. So this is supposed to be guarded around the drip zone, and there's not supposed to be things that are stored or laid there. But because this site has a lot of things like haphazard all over the place and extra materials and different things going on, they have no place to put it, and they're not keeping a very clean site, so they're not taking it away either. And so they're encroaching, well, completely encroaching on the drip zone, tree protection zone for this mature tree here. And to the point where I've seen that there's another area here where they actually had a stop work order from the building department because of contravention of the tree protection zone. Even the fencing, you can see the little orange fencing there, that's supposed to be up and around the tree. And it's supposed to be up and around this tree, but it's not there. If an inspector goes by, they will get another stop work order, right? And that's a waste, because that basically means nothing can happen until they fix it all up, and then they go through all the paperwork with the city, and that could put them behind by a couple of weeks. So, these are ripple effects that occur from overproduction into other areas. All right, so ordering excessively, pouring more than needed, premature fabrication, excessive fabrication of MEP components. Like I said, I do a lot of work with mechanical contractor, mechanical, electrical, plumbing. Overproduction of documentation. That's another waste, where you are doing more documents than's really needed for the project. That can be a waste. Overstaffing. Having more people than necessary doing more things, that can be an overproduction aspect. Now, again, there's got to be some tension. I would probably prefer to have a little bit of overstaffing if I'm doing a big concrete pour, because if the concrete goes off, and it goes off at its own rate, given humidity levels, given basically the number of factors with finishing the concrete, I would rather have more people there to finish it, and if there's a little bit of a waste there, that's fine, because the consequence. Yeah, that's the tension I'm talking about in construction. You got to look at what it is. But then I would really work on, okay, what is the appropriate amount? And I'd be looking at that, and I'd be testing it. And over time, I'd want to probably bring that down so that I really don't have an excess amount of waste there. Extra finishing materials, unnecessary duplicate. Well, meetings is always a sore point, and people don't like meetings to begin with, probably because most of them aren't run very effectively. But if you're going to have meetings, you want to make sure they have clear agendas, and there's a whole series, I've done videos on that. But you also want to make sure you're not rehashing the same thing meeting after meeting after meeting. I've felt that when I've sat on different construction association committees. I sat on one for probably about 20 some years, a number of years back. And at a certain point, it was just repeat, right? And so you definitely want to be careful of that, because that really puts people off. Meetings when they're done well, can be really, really helpful. And they're a big part of the last planner system, which is a big part of lean construction methodology, but they have to be done well. So 5 things we can do to reduce overproduction. All right, so let's think a little bit about this video here that we're talking about overproduction, second area of waste. Just-in-time delivery. I said I'd come back to this from the first or second slide. Just-in-time. I like the term last responsible moment in construction, just because I think just-in-time puts people off sometimes. I don't think it should, because its true intention is to try to get things to the project in close to when you need it at the appropriate amount that you need. Which, if we rephrase that, which is often used in lean construction, last responsible moment, means, well, I'm assessing that particular situation. I want to build long-term relationships with my vendors and the supply chain, but for sure, I've got to look at, well, what's the track record of this vendor? What's my trust level of it? What happens if I don't get it delivered on time? Because there's other waste that impacts, which is the next week's one, workers waiting for work and work waiting for workers. So we want to look at that just in time and developing better systems of getting materials when we need it. And that means we've got to think about our procurement processes, our relationships with those vendors. What's the appropriate amounts for every delivery. Like my picture earlier on with the landscaping and all the skids. Was it best to have all of those skids delivered, right, at that time? Or was it better to have maybe 2 or 3 batches of them delivered over time and not take up as much space? Is there an issue? Maybe there's an issue with the dye lots and the coloring of the stone. So from that perspective, that risk overrode the risk of having it in separate deliveries. Those are things you have to consider with those particular areas. Things like that and bricks and things like that may have some aspects to consider. But in that particular property has 3 areas that the stones were going into, so they could have been separated out pretty well. I think that wouldn't have been a problem. Okay, enhanced planning and scheduling through lean systems and methods. There's a number of systems, and if you're watching this and you stayed this long, there's a number of really good contacts out there on LinkedIn, on YouTube, that I would strongly recommend. But Last Planner System, better known as LPS, is kind of the core scheduling in lean construction methodologies, and that will definitely help with coordination and collaboration. All right, making sure stuff doesn't get delivered before. It's a whole encompassing process. Same with TACT and Scrum methods. 2 good sources. TACT, I'd recommend Jason Schroeder's videos. He's got on basically YouTube and LinkedIn, and Scrum methodologies, and Philippe Enrique, engineer, has great stuff on basically the Scrum aspect. Well, they both have great stuff on a lot of different areas of it, but just given I'm talking about that for now, and myself included. So there's a lot of stuff there. Why? Reduces the likelihood of overproduction by aligning production and procurement, because that's what we're trying to do. Align production and procurement. We're trying to develop pull systems where we're pulling things when we're ready for them. We're not pushing them because we've got something produced. There's a difference, significant difference. Adopt lean construction principles. So as I said, this is a whole bunch of things, and maybe I'll jump ahead a little bit to this. There's this triangle that recently Donna Du has done. He basically was one of the founders of the Lean Construction blog. He's got great stuff on LinkedIn. If you want to check it out, definitely I would look there on his stuff, and the Lean Construction blog for sure. A lot of great information that's shared, and it's free. Basically, we have this sort of pyramid, and often we talk about tools in Lean, such as tools and methods. You can kind of get into like these ones: Last Planner System, TACT, Scrum methods, right? You can get into those. You can get into 5 whys. You can get into value stream mapping, which comes up here. They're tools, but it's not just tools. You've got to really sort of see the foundation here is developing a philosophy, a culture, a way of thinking for yourself and your organization. All right. And I have a little bit different views than others may have, but I personally think there's a certain level you can do on your own towards embracing lean principles and helping to reduce the areas of waste. But it is limited when you're one of many. When you get an organization, then you build a culture around it and you build a philosophy around it. Wow. Then you can really take it places. And then that's where we can see huge competitive advantages. And I think that's what's being recognized by the larger construction companies that have been adopting these principles for a number of years now, is the advantages to that. And it's huge. So that's why he's got this at the bottom as sort of the anchor to everything else. And so don't go around thinking, it's just a bunch of tools. It's part of it, but it's not all of it. You really do have to work on that. So adopt lean construction principles, use integrated project management software. There's a lot of different softwares out there. Some actually I think are more detrimental than helpful just because they're so complicated and it takes so much. I think that really good software is pretty intuitive. It is reasonably easy to train to, and you should start to see results fairly quickly. But with the level of complexity that we have on projects and documentation, we need them. And so there's a lot of tools out there for that. And definitely, and a lot of companies, you know what? We're still living 3 decades ago, and I could go back to even my parents. When I was a kid, and they're talking about computers and this and that, and computers will never work in construction. Computers never, because some contractor that my dad knew invested a lot of money in them and they didn't work, and then of course it kind of failed and it was a big expense, etc. But that's when something's new. It's like AI right now. It's new, and there's naysayers and this and that. It's improving every single day. So integrated project management software definitely is the way that we're moving. Building information modeling, integration, lean construction methods, they fit together really, really well. And so, as I said, we want to adopt a lean philosophy that embraces continuous improvement, developing that culture and that way of thinking, and that will help us. And so to reduce overproduction, we really want to be thinking about enhancing our planning scheduling. I also want to add, with the just-in-time, improving our methods of estimating what we need to procure for the actual deliveries and how those procurements and deliveries need to take place. These are going to work together. They don't work in silos. And so that's really what I wanted to cover today on overproduction. But if you enjoyed this video and are thinking about making improvements in construction, please click the like, click subscribe. If there's anything, examples you want to add, that's always helpful, questions, etc. And so let's help improve the construction industry together, and I'll see you next time. I'm Tom Stephenson, wishing you a wonderful day. Bye for now.